Hey everybody, it's Ann, and it's time to record an updated Sword and Shield set building guide for Title Update 2 and the release of Arch-Tempered Duna. I haven't done one of these in a little while, and after the Duna release, I don't expect the set building metagame to change again until deeper into Title Update 3, so it feels like a good time to go ahead and do one of these. If you're unfamiliar with my channel, hi, hello. I speedrun Monster Hunter sometimes, and I like to make little breakdowns and guides of how I achieved those speedruns and teach higher level Monster Hunter concepts to people. I also do my own set building, and you kind of have to be a competitive speedrunner at some point. I talk to other set builders and things like that. So if you're interested in all the credentials and why you should pay attention to my guide, it's all on the YouTube channel. So, that's all there. The format is I used to be a teacher, so I teach like a teacher. Everything's going to be done in one take. It's going to be unedited. It's just going to be following some notes. And it might be a little bit longer, it might be a little bit more in depth. Hopefully you like that. If it's not your jam, I'm terribly sorry. I'll try to make it quick and timestamp some things. So yeah, we're going to get into this by going over some do's and don'ts of set building before we get to the actual set list. So here's what the set list is going to look like later on. If we can game now, woohoo. There it all is. If you're interested in just seeing the sets, I'll leave a timestamp in the description. You can just go straight there. For everybody else who wants to hear some explanations of the set building ideas, let's go to class for a little bit. So first things first, we're going to class, which means we have some notes. I told you I teach like a teacher. We love notes. So Sword and Shield set building relatively straightforward. I don't want to spend too much time here. Weakness Exploit, Agitator, Max Might, those are all our core damage skills. We're going to try to max them out in almost every set we build. I actually go with 80% Agitator uptime for my calcs. When I'm playing with skilled players, that's where it tends to lay, but it can always end up somewhere in here. For burst, I have 1 point of burst in every single set. 1 point of burst is worth around like even 2 points of agitator, maybe more. 1 point of burst, extremely, extremely, extremely valuable. Multiple points of burst, not good. It does not scale up past the first point, so we only use 1 point. So every set's going to have these basically maxed out, plus our single point of burst. Yes, Sword and Shield hits a lot. Yes, Sword and Shield does use elemental matching. No stacking burst is still bad. 1 point. Latent power is something we use. Sword and Shield is not quite as good at utilizing the more conditional damage skills that this game has. So latent power is something that we just kind of use to get over that. We're not reliant on latent power. Yes, latent power has weird uptime. Yes, it's generally only going to be like 30 to 50% in most typical hunts, but it's free. We don't rely on the damage. It's just a nice little bonus we do to get the absolute min-max damage out of our sets. That's cool. And then we have Guts set bonus. So Guts is something that you get by running the Lord Soul group bonus. That's running any 3 Arch-Tempered pizzas. It translates Guts. Ta-da. And Guts is pretty cool. You gain 5% of your raw attack as a bonus in exchange for 5% defense when you have Guts. And that is very good. 5% raw attack is very good. Creating some defense for that. Any high-level player is going to take that any day of the week. Now, if you're worried about the perhaps chance that you will cart from that damage penalty, that defense penalty, I should say, there's a bit of a thing with Guts about that. So if you look at my health bar, I'm highlighting it with my mouse. There's this little yellow tick there. If your health is above that tick and you would take a lethal hit, you will not die. You'll go to 1 HP and your Guts will be consumed. So you will lose that damage buff. You will lose that defense penalty. And afterwards, you will gain a 5% defense buff. So you get damage until you mess up enough that you would die, and then it saves you, and now you have some defense to keep continuing on to try to finish the hunt. So that's really cool. Guts is strong. And an additional thing you can do with this is actually layer it with Moxie. You see, Moxie is a food skill. The Silled meal has it. So if you have pick a meal vouchers, go grab that. And Moxie is also a one-hit protection thing. So again, it has Moxie meal high has the same threshold as Guts. If you're above that little yellow tick and you would take lethal damage, Moxie gets consumed, and it stacks with Guts. So Moxie gets consumed before Guts. So if you were to take a lethal hit, Moxie gets consumed, and you still have Guts, you still have that damage bonus, and you still have that protection, and then you would have to take a second additional lethal hit to lose that Guts bonus, consume it, and then go to the defense buff afterwards. So running Guts plus Moxie, you get 2 anti-cart measures, and you get a pretty big damage buff as long as it stays active. It's great. Every set we build uses Guts. We love it. Cool. That's it for the armor skills we're going to focus on. And then weapon skills. Crit Boost 3 is the best damage skill in the game. We're just going to use a minimum of Crit Boost 3 on every set. That's just math. That's how it goes. Offensive Guard 3, I'm going to generally recommend because you only need around 30 to 40% uptime, which is very achievable on Sword and Shield for it to be competitive with just stacking crit boosts instead. And it also can come on a combo deco with an additional point of handicraft or an additional point of elemental damage. It's not a lot, but it's there to help make it more competitive. So I will generally recommend that. You can instead run crit boost 5 if you have bad offensive guard uptime, and that's not necessarily mean you're playing bad, it's just a playstyle thing. Some speedrunners will do that because using offensive guard in a speedrun is something that happens less often. That's why you'd see it. You could choose to do it either way, it's fine, it's up to you, doesn't matter. And then Master's Touch, Sword and Shield blows through a lot of sharpness. We need a sharpness management deco, and we use a bunch of affinity in all our sets, so Master's Touch mathematically comes out to be the best way to do that. So that's it. And then if you're in multiplayer, just use Shock Absorber. It's very good. We love Shock Absorber. Cool. Those are our main goals. We're going to try to get that in every single set. Now, as far as skills we do not use well, but I get asked about, that section is there because in a lot of these communities that teach people Monster Hunter, new people coming along, people that are newer to set building, and they see other weapons using these skills, and they ask, well, why doesn't Sword and Shield use them? I just want to address that really quickly. Hopefully I'm not too long in here. Adrenaline Rush, you proc it by dodging through things, and it has a bit of an opportunity cost. Sword and Shield doesn't dodge through things as often as you would think because you need to actually roll through it or use a back hop. A common misconception I see is that, hey, maybe our sliding swipe can actually proc it by going through it by using the invuln just like that. That will not proc Adrenaline Rush. You'd have to like get up here and actually back hop through the move or actually roll through the move. And doing that, that's not something Sword and Shield wants to be doing all that often. We have better ways to maintain uptime. So Adrenaline Rush is off the table right off the bat. And then for Counter-Strike, Counter-Strike you have to get hit by a move and sent flying to proc it. Guarding a move that would do that, that does not proc Counter-Strike, okay? You have to actually get hit by the move that would send you flying and go flying. That's the only way for Sword and Shield to reliably proc it. Other weapons have interactions that can more reliably proc it, and that's because super armor. If you were to use super, some people call it super or hyper armor. If you were to super armor through a move that would send you flying, with like a great sword tackle, and you see Counter Strike activated, absorbing moves with super armor will work. Sword and Shield doesn't have super armor. Great Sword has super armor. Switch Axe is a strong super armor move. Longsword has a strong super armor move. Anything with an offset has strong super armor. That adds Insect Glaive and Hammer to the mix. Even the Bow Dodge has some super armor that can get tagged on it. That's why you see those weapons using it. Sword and Shield has none of that. And even if you're like a weaker player who is getting launched around by Counter-Strike all getting launched around and proccing Counter-Strike all the time, walking back into combat, reestablishing like your uptime, maybe having to get on the chocobo for safety, maybe having to stop and heal, all that stuff, it cuts into the Counter-Strike uptime, and it just doesn't really make it super worth it to run. So like in all circumstances, I would not recommend running Counter-Strike. So there's that. And then moving on past that, we have elemental skills. Sword and Shield's primary damage is through raw. Yes, we element match. Elemental skills are not very good and require quite a bit of element to make it worth it. Sword and Shield's not going to achieve that. It's just math. We don't really use elemental skills. You might see like 1 point from a free combo deco. That's as most you're going to see. That's just because it's free. And then guard and guard up skills, I would not recommend actually using either of those. Yes, the guard on Sword and Shield is quite strong, but if you were to try to block something like that and you would need those skills, you should instead be just avoiding it. We can move around quite a bit by using chop, by using sliding swipe, by using back hop, all kinds of things like that. You need to become better at utilizing those to position yourself more effectively rather than relying on just stacking guard skills because the damage opportunity cost for stacking those guard skills is really, really bad. So, and there's just no reason to use them when we have other tools to make up for that. So there's that. And yeah. Now for niche skills that you might see sometimes, the laggy set bonus is starting to come up a little bit in this patch. I have it equipped right now. So you can see because I thought I had it. Yeah. Did I not equip the set? Let me go equip the set real quick. Da 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 da. Oh my goodness, I'm so bad at making videos. Okay. So guts laggy. So I have a laggy set bonus equipped. If you have 2 pieces of laggy, after you hit a monster for a little bit, you'll get a big stupid lightning effect proc. That right there. Whenever that procs, it deals a little bit of lightning damage, and it also gives you some affinity for a set period of time before going on cooldown. It's not that great. The procs, not a ton, but it's damage, and it gives you like 6 to 7% affinity over the course of the hunt. So we don't build specifically because we want the laggy set bonus, but the laggy gear already has good skills and slots on it, and the laggy set bonus is a nice little additional thing where mathematically it can be really competitive with the top sets. So the reason it's a niche is because we don't build specifically for it. It can come up, but it's not generally a goal of ours. After that, Mind's Eye plus Razor Sharp. Mind's Eye is for matchups like Gore Magala or Arch-Tempered Ray Dow, where you have to hit bad hit zones. Bad hit zones get a really big damage bonus if you have Mind's Eye equipped specifically. So that's why you'll see that pop up. Razor Sharp is sometimes included with that due to affinity math and speed runs. Don't worry about it too much. Earplugs 2. You might see a speedrunner decide to sack some damage in order to run Earplugs 2 to gain uptime that could outpace that damage. And matchups where roars are rather annoying or a monster has a particularly long roar animation, these things happen. That's that. Again, it's a niche for a reason. Fully stacking latent power to 5 or using things like Convert Element, those skills both require extremely stringent uptime and activation conditions that require a very tight script and a deep understanding of that. Convert Element in particular is a mysterious Jogo skill. If you're not already familiar with speedrun level scripting and speedrun level set building, don't worry about it, kitten. Just yay, just forget about it. It's fine. It's chill. And then in other niche news, we have Wide Range 5 and Speed Eating 3. I call my set the Gobbler because his name is Speed Eating Deco. That's not meta, okay? But it's very popular and it can be very fun to play the little support sword and shield things. We don't have to put away our weapon to consume stuff. You see that pretty often, and I am going to show you guys a set with that can still deal pretty competitive damage, but it's a niche for a reason because it's off meta but popular enough for me to want to address. And then for abandoned skills, you may have watched some older videos, see some older guides. I don't recommend trying to run Second Wind Full Gore anymore. That was for max might uptime, which we just don't need to worry about too much at this point. And trying to shoehorn it into a gut set, you just give up too much damage to try to make Second Wind work anymore. So unfortunately, Second Wind is a thing of the past. For Gore Magala, you may be surprised to see it's not really used anymore. If you were to run 4-piece Gore on Sword and Shield, Guts just does it better. So there's that. And for 2-piece Gore, you may think, well, why not run 3 Guts, 2 Gore for your set? If we're running a Gut set, we're going to have enough affinity anyways, and the Gore set really only gives you affinity. The slots on the sets are not super good, so you just get the affinity from the set, and we just flat out don't need that affinity anymore. If you want to run something like that, you can fill the gap in with laggy at this point, it's fine. So both Gore and Full Gore Ancient are gone, and that's that, and that's all the set building notes. Hopefully I got through that quickly enough, and we can go ahead and move on to actually looking at the sets. So hello all timestamp people, it's time to actually get into the set list part of the video. So here we go. And we will be beginning with the Guts LP3 set. To start with, let's look at the weapon. We use Ardian weapons down the board, attack infusions across the board for what you actually are using for base craft materials, I think that's how it's referred to as. And then for your reinforcement bonuses, 3 attack, 2 sharp, or 4 attack, 1 sharp. You can use either of those. They're both extremely, extremely close. I see people debate this all the time. It's not really worth debating. They're so close, and the context of which is going to be better for you depends on like a lot of hunt uptime stuff, what the matchup looks like, how much you're hitting the monster before it moves areas, if you're killing it before it moves areas, if the monster uses free sharpens, all kinds of stuff like that. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, go for it. But the damage difference between min-maxing between 2 sharp or 1 sharp is very, very small. Take what you can get. Just use them. It's totally fine. So that's the weapon. And then for the actual set, here are your skills. Here are your decos. You can pause the video if you need to look at them longer. And yeah, so if you go on to the main Monster Hunter subreddit, Monster Hunter meta subreddit, or if you go into some discords that go over meta set building, you'll see a Sword and Shield guide posted pretty frequently. It's made by like BK Mopop, PokerDo, some other guys like that. They're all quite nice. I've talked to them, and well, mostly nice. And I like their set guides. I like talking to them, conversing with them. They're pretty great, and I agree with them that this is the probably the highest potential damage set that you're going to find in general play right now. So I'll link their guide in the description if you want to see more of their stuff. And this is their set. I really like this set. I run this set very frequently, so props to them. This is really cool. And it has all of our core skills here. Everything's great. And there's one little wrinkle to this, and that is the latent power 3. If you add everything up and do the math, when all the skulls are having full uptime, that latent power third point is actually not doing anything because the affinity overcaps. Overcapped affinity doesn't do anything. More crit past 100, it's nothing. However, when you're in your latent power window, dropping max might for a little bit, it happens with Sword and Shield because we need to use back hop or we may need to guard and things like that. So that last little point of latent power isn't totally wasted during that, or maybe your agitator and your latent power window don't perfectly overlap. Things like that happen. So that latent power point is doing something. It's just not getting the full value, but again, it's doing something, and that's what makes the set have that extra tiny little bit of damage potential. But you could drop some of that latent power and run various versions of these guts sets. So another example that I have been testing out myself is this laggy set. My own math is putting this at around 40% latent power uptime. This can go even with the main meta set or even beat it in some very niche scenarios by minuscule amounts. When latent power time goes up, the other set's better. When latent power time goes down, this set can outperform. If you want to be less reliant on latent power, you can run this set, and it also is going to come with an additional 1 slot. Here are the decos. Again, pause if you need to look at them, but here's the set. So cool. Laggy variation. And then if you want to actually drop just a very, very tiny minuscule amount of damage, you could just take the basic Guts LP3 set, drop 1 point of LP, and fit in some comfort. So the most common variant of this, and this is the set that I would recommend most players watching this video to try running, is a 2-piece Zo set. This gives you the 2 Zo bonus, which is a little bit of health regen. Very good. Sword and Shield takes some chip damage via either guarding, or some of our attacks have a little bit of like flinch free 1-ish effects on them, like enhanced charge shot, perfect rush, things like that. We take some chip damage. That covers that. It's very nice. You also gain an additional 1 slot. So pretty much everything you'd want for basic comfort's all here, and the damage loss is extremely, extremely minimal. If you want even more comfort, you could instead run this variant. This is the same damage as the previous Zo set that I showed you. And you give up the Zo bonus and instead gain a bunch of 1 slots. I know some people really enjoy like Divine Blessing 3 or something like that. So this still maintains the same damage, it's just a different version of comfort. Any of the 4 sets that I just showed you, Guts LP3, the Guts Laggy variant, you can go back and pause and look at them. Any of those 4 sets you can run and be in the competitive realm of damage. It just depends on what comfort you want. Do you want an additional 1 slot with competitive damage? Do you want more 1 slots and some more comfort with a slightly lower damage? It's all there. And to just like to drive home how small the damage differences are, I'm going to show you guys a calculator. Rage Ryer made this calculator. Shout out to them. I'll also link this in the description for people to go play with. You can see everything I'm doing here. You can pause to look at all the uptimes and everything that I'm using. But essentially, you pump some builds into this, and it just does all the calculations and math for you. This is a pretty reliable calculator. So all 3 of our builds are in there. We're going to hit calculate. They're all named. And look at these damage differences. It is infinitesimally small what these differences are. So like as a comparison between the Guts and the Laggy set, it's only 3 damage per completed combo. So let's say this was the combo we were using to fight AT with Duna. Let's just do some math real quick. AT with Duna has this much hit points. It's a lot. If you were to kill it 100 to 0, not cap it, you were to kill it 100 to 0 and you only used your main good combos, it would take you what? Divide by 2. About 50 combos, about 50 combos to kill it. And our damage difference per combo is 3, so over the course of the hunt, you're really potentially losing, what, 50 combos times the 3 difference? 150 damage. And the laggy set bonus has those little electrical procs. They lower down, the lower bound is 30 on them. So you only need 5 procs to match or outpace this at around 40% affinity. Oh, sorry, 40% latent power uptime. So like, these sets are very competitive. This uptime can get really weird, so I'm not going to definitively say which one's better. I generally lean on the 3LP set being better. But again, These are the margins we're talking about. They're so small. And then if you look at the comfy set that just drops a little bit of damage, over the course of the hunt, we're talking like 200 damage difference through using your main combos. It is incredibly, incredibly small, the difference between all four of these top sets. Pick whichever one you like the most and stick with it. Maybe try a couple out, but these are your main competitive damage sets that offer either full damage or offer a little bit of additional comfort, however you want to play it. That's cool. And then if you want to get into off meta a little bit, here's the wide range set that I like to run when I decide I want to have some fun and become the gobbler. What makes this set fine to run with wide range is that you get wide range 5 and speed eating 3, and the damage is still in the ballpark of the meta set. It's still pretty good. You can play like normal, have competitive damage, and still have that fun of being able to use wide range and speed eating. Now, I know that the wide range enthusiast may be saying, where's your free meal? Well, if I'm going to become the gobbler, I'm going to commit to the bit, and I'm bringing a whole bag full of stuff to keep making everything. If I run out of stuff with a full bag of like crafting mats, it's doomed anyways, you know? So that's my take on free meal. You do have one extra one slot. You could cram 1 point in there. And for recovery up, I find it to be generally unnecessary, but again, you have that one extra one slot. If you're really a stickler, you could drop down even more damage and run something like this. We're getting to the point where now we're talking about like old gore sets are competitive in damage, so like I would personally not go this low. But if you're really committed and you just don't give a crap about having the very competitive damage and you still want to have some damage and you still want to have as much wide range fluff as you can fit in, go ahead and use this. It's totally fine. I prefer running more damage, but if you want to mess with this, these are examples. You can, take your own spin on it, but this is about where I would put these sets. Another off meta set that I find to be fun, if you like the flame procs from running the Zoshia Sword and Shield, you can run this. It's running a meme amount of Scorcher as well. So in longer hunts, the set actually deals like okay damage, and it's off meta and a bit of a for fun set. But it still has plenty of one slots, and it's a little bit elemental agnostic. If you just want to build one sword and shield and have a fun set that deals like okay-ish damage, you could just like run something like this. It's totally fine, particularly if your hunts tend to go longer. And it's fun to see the procs. So as a for fun set building idea, if you want to make your own sets, here's an example. Again, I'm just figuring out how to run 3 pieces of something that gives me guts without sacrificing too much damage and make something that looks like this. And then for like an earplugs 2 set, again, as an example, if I were to run a competitive run, I might run something similar to this. It's just like our other meta sets, but you have to drop a point of agitator, which hurts, but you could make up for that point of agitator being gone by having these earplugs give you more uptime. That is the theory anyways. I don't think this is frequently very optimal, but again, these are just examples. This is just ideas. Feel free to experiment. But if you want to stick to what I strictly recommend from meta, I would stick to running one of these 4 sets. So yeah, let's just show up again real quick before I end the video. Highest damage set from the meta guide. I like the meta guide. I like those guys. This is their set. They're very good. This is the laggy variation that I run sometimes that I think can be very competitive. If you like the laggy set, you want an additional 1 slot, there you go. The Zoe Comfort variant. Again, the damage is very, very close. Totally cool. And lastly, this Gearg variant. A lot of this is really redundant. I know the video's gone on a little bit long, so I just wanted to be very thorough and show a bunch of set building ideas and make sure people are well equipped to use these sets, understand everything, and then maybe make their own sets, make some variations. Maybe you find something better than what I found. That's very possible. I'm not that smart. So, anyways, like I said, this video has been going on long enough. So thank you everybody who has stuck with me for all this. I'll probably see you again. I might do a couple runs here and there, who knows? But whenever Title Update 3 comes out, maybe another challenge quest comes out, I'll upload some more videos and we'll go over the next iteration of the set building and everything. So, yeah. Thanks for sticking with me through this one for everything, and then I'll hopefully see you guys in another video later. So, see ya!